The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to our fifth and final webinar. I might be letting you go here. I will be suggesting a few ways that we can stay in contact towards the end of the webinar here. I do want to let you know that it is a real privilege for me to be part of your journey and to be part of the whole process, and for you to share with me and to be a part of that means a lot to me. It's a journey for me as well. Every time I do this transformational cleanse or lead it, I always learn a tremendous amount from you. I learn about me as well. So I get to be the beneficiary as well. Before we dive into this week, I want to sort of recap what was supposed to be happening last week, which I did switch up week 4 to week 5. I kind of switched things up. I delayed the intermittent fasting until this coming week, or at least talking about it. And last week, we were supposed to be starting to put some foods that we had taken out back in, foods like legumes, beans, things like that, and the non-gluten grains, put those back in and just kind of see how you did. And if you wanted to throw a glass of wine in, I was going to say okay, or a cup of coffee, but I was hoping you would wait until this week to actually do that, to give your body the big enough, a real big break here. So if you have any comments or questions about what you did last week or anything else, again, please use the chat box and ask your questions there. As we go along, ask your questions there as well. So what I want to get you set up for, since this is our last webinar, is what do you do here? Once I let you go, where are you going to go? How are you going to continue? So I want to give you some tools of how to get back on track when you get off, and we all do. Okay, this is life, and we have different situations, and we're not supposed to be that rigid. I don't want you to be this rigid food Nazi that I see out and about. I do want you to be conscious. I do want you to learn more and more what benefits your body and how you feel. And I do want you to learn new tools to feed your body nutrient-dense foods. I do still want you to keep on going down a path, but I don't want you to be obsessed with your food and obsessed with your eating, okay? So one of the tools is an 80-20 rule, and we'll be talking about that. I will be talking about intermittent fasting, how it can be kind of a magic bullet to reducing inflammation and to help you stay on track. What to do if you're experiencing what we call weight loss resistance, and that's actually the term. And options for you if you were not able to dive into the transformational cleanse over these last 28 days the way that you had wanted to. So kind of giving you some ways of continuing to dive in deeper if you'd like, or to dive in if you never really got to where you wanted to be and why that is. Okay, first of all, maybe we should start with how and why we get off track. And some of you maybe have seen this image before. I absolutely love this image because it is very true that grains and sugars respond or stimulates a part of our brain that stimulates the dopamine receptors. So it is very, very similar to that of what happens when we snort Coke. Okay, it stimulates those pleasure centers, the dopamine centers, which feel great. And they've actually done brain scans to watch the chemical reaction here and what lights up. So yes, sugar and grains hit our pleasure center, and if you experienced over, the past 21 to 28 days, especially in the beginning, grumpiness, tiredness, just not feeling right or good, that could be actually the dopamine receptors and shutting that off, shutting off that fuel to the dopamine part of our brain. It was not happy at all. So what happens when we flood our brains with a lot of sugar, alcohol, refined foods, and again, flour and grains, is that it floods the dopamine receptors with all that feel good. And so what the body does to try to keep things in homeostasis is the number of receptors decrease because it's getting so much stimulus. And then when you take away that stimulus, your body's going, because it doesn't have as many receptors anymore. And it has to kind of calm down and has to regenerate some of the receptor sites that it had taken away when it was being bombarded with all these types of chemicals that flooded that area. So there's actually a biochemical process and a withdrawal, literally withdrawal uh, process that's going on. So that might help explain things. So whenever we put these types of foods back in or something close to it, we're going to get a hit, okay, with the dopamine receptors and at our pleasure centers. And so we're going to, take one hit and then maybe another, and then we can be off and running again. So it's real. It happens. And I want to show you the tools of quickly getting back on. Just boom, just like that. So some of the fear factor goes out. So the first thing I want to talk about is the 80-20 rule. And I'm going to talk about it in two aspects. And one is what your plate should look like, and then how to also eat that way on a general basis. So first let's look at the plate. And what was interesting is when I was trying to find an image of a plate that might have 80% of vegetables and a little bit of fruit and 20% protein and good fats, I couldn't find a plate on the web. I kept on finding plates that had grains on them, and we're so indoctrinated that grains are such a needed part of our diets, and part of that is going back to the old food pyramid that was put out by the USDA, and grains were the bottom tier, and it's the biggest one. Or when they revamped it, it was still the largest amount of what we're supposed to eat. So I just want to say something here. Our plate should be about 80% of that. So most of our plate, 70 to 80%, should be full of vegetables and grains, and then a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat. And if you did listen to the webinar, I think that was the second or third week, I can't remember which one, I talked about the types or how you want to have of your calories. You want to have about 40 to 50 to 60% fat, and you want to have about 20 to 30% protein, and then about 25 to 30% carbohydrates, which sounds very different from what I'm showing you up here. But the thing to remember is that carbohydrates, especially in the form of vegetables, are going to be not that dense in calories. Whereas fat right here, for the same amount of food, is going to have more than double the amount of calories, okay? So we can still have a small amount of fat on our plate and a small amount of protein on our plate and still get that 40 to 50% of calories coming from our fat. So I hope that's not too confusing. I just wanted to make that distinction. The second thing with the 20-80 rule, one other thing I want to make sure that always with this, always having plenty of herbs and spices, because there's so much medicinal value with all of that, especially turmeric, basil, cilantro. So always have a lot of flavor in your food, but flavor not coming from artificial flavors, but coming from our herbs and our spices. So the other 20-80 rule I want to talk about is if you can eat basically like this about 80% of the time, 75 to 80%, you're going to have wiggle room to have that, piece of wedding cake, a couple glasses of wine, to go out with your friends, and to enjoy things that are not particularly on your eating plan. you're going to have the room to do that as long as you come back each time to do this type of eating. We'll talk about how to do that. I heard a friend say the other day that Vicky is her name, that she was craving some ice cream. And she made the comment that, I've been craving it for 4 or 5 days. And if I would just go out and eat just a little bowl or frozen yogurt, whatever it is, it'd probably be less damaging than all the foods I've been eating that are so-called good for me because I keep on craving that. And I think we have to listen to that. There are times when I crave chocolate more than other times. There were times I had some frozen yogurt about 2 weeks ago, and you know what? I really, really wanted it. And I didn't have a whole bunch of it. That's the other thing you realize. You don't have to eat a whole lot of things to feel happy and satisfied. The other thing is, if anyone knows me, and this is going to blow you guys away for those of you who don't, is I get a Carl's Jr. craving every once in a while. And that craving is a star cheeseburger. I might have the bun, I might not have the bun, but it's onion rings and a Diet Coke. And I get that craving probably about quarter late. And it's usually when I'm tired and stressed, okay? I usually have one meal and it does take care of it for me. I don't want another one for a long time. So I'm not condoning you eating bad, but what I want to do is give you permission to maybe not give them the cravings all at once, but if they stay there for 2 and 3 days, maybe give yourself a little bit of that and see what happens. Okay? I am hoping that I just want to mention this. Vacation, I don't know about you, but when I go on vacation, and we'll talk about this in a couple more slides, I start off really well on my 80-20 eating plan, and then, put one thing in, and then I get away the second or third day, put 3 or 4 more things in. If I've gone for 4 or 5 days, I've got a lot of stuff in there that is not conducive. It's not something I normally do. And so I'm kind of eating at that 50%. I'm not totally blowing it, but I'm probably eating about 50% of what I should be eating, and the other 50% are foods that really shouldn't be in there. That's okay for a little bit as long as you learn how to come back and reset your body again. And it usually takes me a couple of days to do that. So these tools, people aren't thin just because it's magic, okay? They're thin because they have different lifestyle habits and way of doing things in place, along with a lot of other things that we've talked about that I will recap at the end. So a lot of it's about food. It isn't 100% about food. It's about inflammation. It's about your gut. It's about all these other things as well. But this is a big part of it. I am also hoping that as you continue to move down this path of learning how to incorporate better foods into your life, that you will understand that you can still have a wonderful, wonderful buffet of foods that nurture your body as well as nurture your cravings and nurture your brain, all of that at once. So I'm hoping that you'll learn to prepare foods more with better fats, so fats like olive oil and coconut oil. You'll learn how to eat sweets, again, that have better fats in them and not the inflammatory fats. And then they're sweetened with things like fruit and dates and honey and maple syrup, so things that are not processed, so highly processed, maybe a little bit of stevia. I do make a wonderful pumpkin pie. It's a vegan pumpkin pie. The crust is absolutely awesome. It's got butter in it. It's got pecans in it and no flour whatsoever. Oh, it has flaxseed to kind of hold things together. And then I'm forgetting what the filling is. But I am happier with that pumpkin pie now than I am with the regular pumpkin pie. So hopefully you will learn how to do that. And to kind of tease you, I'm going to give you some pictures of some of the items I'm talking about. Most of them are desserts, I would say, yeah. And you can find these recipes in your collection of recipes and or on my website. Okay. So this right here is coconut ice cream, and it's made with cashews. So cashews It is it's got coconut cream in it. It's got raw cacao in there. It was absolutely fabulous and wonderful. So you can make these things that you crave be good for you. This isn't a great picture, but this is cauliflower popcorn, and it is made with cornmeal. And you can see if you can tolerate corn on occasion, okay? And I'll always get the organic corn so it's not GMO, but this is a fun little snack. Okay? It's cauliflower, and it's really tasty. This is one of my new favorites, and this is zucchini fries. And it is dipped in egg and then almond flour and then baked. It's got seasonings in it, and it's one of my go-tos. And I make a little aioli sauce over here. It's got a little bit of cayenne, not cayenne pepper, but smoked paprika. So that's a lot of fun. These crab cakes are paleo friendly. They're in your recipes. I always put that with a coleslaw. This is almond bread. Also, it's herb almond bread. I do prefer the almond flour over the almond meal for this particular bread. And then this is a beautiful, beautiful um, chocolate pudding, and it's made with avocado. It's made with coconut. So here again, it's sweets, but it's sweets that will not raise your blood sugar so much. You don't need very much. All of these are very, very rich. So you have a high fat content, which satisfies your brain. Remembering that your brain is about 60% fat. And then I always like for breakfast like this. I like to poach my eggs and put them on the avocado and even drizzle a little bit of balsamic vinegar. I'm hungry right now. My mouth is watering. And then the raw taco wraps are also in your recipe book. This is a stuffed yam, and I stuff it with chicken that's sauteed. And then I do put a little bit of sour cream on top. Or there's a little bit of cashew cream. We've got a recipe for that. And then I always serve that with some coleslaw, which you'll see in just a few minutes. The chia seed bread is absolutely fabulous. I like to smother that in either goat cheese or avocado with a little salt. And then here's your coleslaw. Oops, and that's right. And this is one of my favorites. It's so simple to make. I make them, I stick them in my freezer, and they're just a quick go-to. Usually just one will make me happy. If I have to go to two, okay. But they're the chocolate coconut macaroons, and again, they're good for you. Now, of course, you do anything too much, and it's not going to be good for you. But I want to give you some options and let you know that you can still enjoy food immensely. I am a foodie. I am. And I love to eat. And I am not going to go around feeling deprived. So I'm hoping that for you, you will find this as well. Okay. We're going to jump to intermittent fasting. And I love this. So this is what we have become. Or I guess the right word is evolved into. I am basically going to be reading of what's in your book, just because I think it's pretty well stated and said here. And it's on page 50 and 51 of your book. So not too long ago, we were hunters and gatherers, and we did intermittently fast. And what I want to talk about is what is intermittent fasting? How did it come about? Or really, what is it? What are the benefits? And is it safe for everyone to do? And will you be able to do it? So according to many experts, intermittent fasting, yes, I see that edit, is the least expensive and most powerful healing method we can incorporate into our lives, which is why I think it's really important for me to include this. Okay. I am very aware that the mere mention of the term fasting terrifies a lot of people. It terrifies me too, or it did. But it's kind of nice to put in perspective that our ancient ancestors have been fasting either voluntarily, which we still see in many religious customs, and some people would do for 12 hours, sometimes 16 hours at a time. for religious reasons or involuntarily for thousands of years. Our Paleolithic ancestors were not privy to the convenience stores and fast food places and the general abundance of food that we have everywhere we turn, right? They ate basically what was freshly available, and sometimes there wasn't a whole lot available for extended periods of time. And we have not evolved all that much from that time. Our biology is still basically the same. So based on that, our bodies actually do want a break. They need the break. And scientifically and biochemically, we have proven that. And part of that is just looking at this picture over here. And if you remember when we talked about hormones and insulin last week, I stated that insulin is a fat storing hormone, and it is. And so if you're eating a bunch of soda and sugars and orange juice and coffee and all of that, which is going to spike your glucose up, your insulin's going to march out and take everything out of your bloodstream because it has to, or you're going to die. And it puts it into our cells. So it's that fat storing hormone, which is what it did when, our ancestors had a big kill or a festival. They would eat a lot, and they would have those stores in their fat cells to be utilized later on when we needed it. The problem is we never need it anymore. We have a constant supply of food all the time, and so the stores are never used. So what is intermittent fasting? Well, there's a couple different types, but basically put, it is interspersing periods of eating with periods of non-eating, ranging anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. Of course, it can be a longer fast, but that's usually the range that people choose. It's not a diet where you're being told what to eat and what not to eat. It's a time when you are giving your digestive system a reset so that it can heal and allow internal healing and repairing in other areas of the body. Technically, you don't need to change anything about your diet to benefit from intermittent fasting. And interestingly enough, studies have found that even if the type of foods consumed don't change, intermittent fasting can still have a positive effect. Having said that, so it's interesting that the fact is true. If someone was to fast like once a week for 16 hours, it actually would do them a lot of good, or even every other week, it would do them a tremendous amount of good. But having said that, and now that you know that, it doesn't give you the right or the permission to go out and eat however you want to, because the bottom line is your body still needs fuel and nutrition in order to operate optimally. So you still need to put foods that support that and not inflammatory foods, okay? Even if you're going to fast every so often, okay? Deal? All right. So what are some of the benefits of intermittent fasting? First of all, it slows down the aging process. Yay! It improves hormone levels with a significant reduction in blood sugar and insulin levels, which is huge. And these both reduce the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. And if I haven't mentioned it already, Alzheimer's is being considered the type 3 diabetes. So there is blood sugar dysregulation that happens in the brain, which is surprising because we always thought there was the blood-brain barrier to protect the brain from that. And apparently that's not the case. It increases human growth hormone, which helps to maintain muscle mass. It helps with faster weight loss. So if you're kind of stuck and at a plateau, you might want to incorporate this. It increases energy production inside the cell. So your mitochondria really, really likes this. So I just want to say something about this real quickly. When we eat, when the food's broken down and it goes through all the process and in your mitochondria, the glucose in the mitochondria to create energy for ourselves, for our bodies, the byproduct of everything we eat is free radicals, okay? Oxidation of free radicals. And it's the free radicals that tend to cause mutations in cells and cancer and inflammation and all sorts of other things. So it would make sense then that if a person is even just 10 pounds overweight and is eating food to maintain that there's going to be more free radicals running around in their body. And when we cut back on what we eat, there's going to be less. And again, that's just a natural process of breaking down food, digesting food, and utilizing it. Okay? Is intermittent fasting safe for everyone? Yes, it is safe for everyone, even those with diabetes and hypoglycemia. But I would suggest starting off slowly and monitoring your blood sugar levels carefully. A simple 12-hour fast is a good place to start, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Question probably a lot of people have is, will I be able to do it, and how do I do it? Anyone can do a 12-hour fast if they consume enough good fats and protein and fiber the meal before the fast begins. So the easiest way to do a 12-hour fast is during the night, yeah? So you stop eating at 6 p.m. and you fast until 6 a.m. and you break the fast with breakfast. And this is the easiest way to begin your fast. And again, even that 12 hours, instead of maybe 8 or 10 that most of us get in between our dinner and our morning meal, is really good to help your body reset. The next type of fast that I want to recommend is the 16-hour fast, which again can begin around 6 p.m. and it will end around 12 noon. And probably the best way to end the fast is with a nice organic green drink and then a nice vegan meal. And again, you want to start the fast by consuming good fats and protein and fiber at that ending meal, at the beginning, at the last meal before you begin the fast. You want to always be drinking plenty of water and herbal teas during your 16-hour fast, or if you're doing a 24-hour fast, you need to be doing that as well. I have not done a 24-hour fast. I've done a 16-hour fast. And it was tough a couple different times during the fast. But one of the things I found myself doing is that, like, okay, remember what you're doing, why you're doing it. You want to try this out, number one. Number two, you're going to be able to eat. And I used to have a lot more fluctuation with blood sugar. And now that I've changed the way of eating, a little more fiber, a little more fat, I find that my blood sugar is much more stable, much more even. And, I might feel a little bit funny and fuzzy in the head for just a little bit, then I usually get over it. And I'm surprised at how well I do. And the more often you do it, the easier it does become. So it's just knowing that you're doing something really instinctive and beneficial to your body on a lot of different levels. So fasting can be used as a profound tool for change. It's a time to look more closely at why we eat and when we eat. And that was something that I ran into as well. Are we eating because it's a habit? Are we eating because it's 7 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then 6 or 7 o'clock at night? Are we eating because we're bored? Are we eating because we want a distraction? We want to avoid what we're doing? Why are we eating? So it allows you to become more present of what's going on for you, which is really important because we're so distracted doing so many different things. So I'm hoping that all of you will try the 12-hour fast. Start there, and then maybe try a 16-hour fast either this week or 1 or 2 weeks down the road, whenever you feel that you are ready. So one of the tools, other than fasting, that I want to give you to help reset and get back on track when you get off track. Some people will do a 16-hour fast if they've been off track for 4 or 5 days or a weekend. And what I find for me is, especially if it's on the weekend, usually I will have had a couple glasses of wine. Let's say I go to a wedding or for an overnight or something like that, where I'm definitely consuming more sugar, more carbs, and more wine. And intermittent fasting or 16-hour fast for me is not the best thing. What I find is I need to kind of reset my blood sugar before I can take that other step. So for me, doing a protein day, and I highly recommend this, and it seems to be very successful for a lot of my clients, is just make Monday, okay, after the weekend, which is when we're usually more social, just make Monday your protein day, which is basically going back to that, 80-20 rule here. It's just on this protein day, no fruits and no starchy vegetables. So it's just, more of your watery, fibrous, lighter vegetables and protein and some good fats. And I would throw in a green drink or green juice in there too. So just cleansing your system, resetting your taste buds, again, resetting your brain. Because the dopamine receptors have been tickled a lot, usually after the weekend. And again, I want you to all know I don't go way off the reservation. But I do, I do put some things in. When I go on vacation, I find, and I think I may have already mentioned this, but I find that it will take 2 or 3 protein days before my brain, my mouth, and my head will kind of calm back down, and it'll want the good things again. It'll crave the garbage for at least 3 days if I have gone off the reservation for 3 or 4 days. So it kind of takes the same amount of time when you've gone off, let's say, a week vacation. It might take you 5 protein days and then maybe a fasting day to get back on track. So these are tools. They're easy. So they're quick and easy. It's not putting you necessarily on a diet again. It's just resetting everything so you don't go too far off. If we don't reset it, we go too far off, then we're going to have to go through the withdrawals again. And everyone's a little bit different in their chemistry and their makeup. And for some people, it goes fast. They go really fast back into that addicted state. And so it's really hard for them to come out of it. And some people that wanted to be part of this cleanse, they may have actually experienced that. And it was a lot harder this one. Okay, I want to talk about weight loss resistance. It is an actual term. It is a condition, and it happens mainly to women. Men can sometimes have it, but it happens mainly to women. So I will hear from my clients sometimes, I'm doing everything correctly. I'm eating optimal protein, fiber at every meal. I'm eating low fat. I exercise. I take supplements, and I get on the scales, and nothing is happening. And my heart goes out to women because they are trying, and it's frustrating. And what do they do? So the mentality of calories in should equal calories out doesn't always work. There can be a lot of other factors with that, as we are seeing more and more. And I think we are kind of stuck on that old paradigm, and the old paradigm as well of how low fat means weight loss, which it doesn't. We have to remember that stress and toxins and hormones, all of those are factors. I want to tell you a little story about a doctor that I worked for very briefly. We just didn't have the same mindset at all. She actually called some of her clients liars when they told her that they were eating and how much they were working out. She says, well, that can't possibly be, because if she didn't say liars, but she says, are you sure you're eating that? Are you sure you're exercising like that? Because if you were, you would be losing weight. It's just that stance. And can you imagine how somebody would feel listening to that, and how devastating it was for the patients? And thank goodness when I was there that most of them were sent to see me, and I was able to understand what was going on, empathize with them, and help them get some answers and move forward. So what are the main culprits here? So we have lack of sleep. So my little darlings, and I know of some of you here, and I am slapping your hand, because if you have not gotten the results that you want, and you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, then guess what? that's where you need to work. And if it's difficult for you to get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, not because of your workload, but because it's hard for you to go to sleep or turn your brain off, or it's hard for you to stay asleep, then please contact me and I can help you with that. Okay? Chronic stress is also a big culprit of this. So here again, this often ties into lack of sleep. And my chronic stressors are usually busy, 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 type A, all of that. You know, you just got to calm it down. If you want to lose weight and you're not, you've tried everything else, you have to look at these culprits, at these things listed here. Toxicity, so what's your toxic load? And part of that also goes back to how well are you able to dump hormones out. There are some people that just genetically hold on to their estrogen. It's usually not the good estrogen. I'm not going to get into what's the good and the bad. But your toxicity load will also clog up what's happening with your hormones. Thyroid fatigue, you know, we have to look at your T3, T4, all of that. Dysbiosis, that is, you know, if the bacteria is not right in your system, you have pathogens in your system, your digestive system, and yeast, that's an inflammatory arena right there. Over exercise, this is the other thing, and I'll have them come in and say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and it's like, you know what, right now, this is the worst thing in the world that you could be doing. So we do want to move our body, and interval training or exercise is better than this big old cardio thing, because actually it's more stressful to your body when we get older in particular, or if we're under a lot of stress, which comes from our lifestyle, which comes from lack of sleep. Food intolerances, so if you have allergies to foods, you have a leaky gut, that's going to cause a problem. Insulin resistance, okay? Insulin, if you have insulin resistance or you tend to have high insulin levels, and I recommend that you always get your insulin tested, and very few doctors do it, by the way. And then medications. Medications can also cause weight gain. I see this in women that are taking antidepressants and any medications for bipolar. And then birth control pills can also contribute to this. So these are the main culprits. If you can identify with any of them, let's do something about it. So what's the solution or the protocol for weight loss resistance? Okay, so I'm just kind of answering, coming back against the protocol here. 7 hours minimum of sleep. Get natural help if you need to. Don't go to the ambulance, please. Yoga and meditation, you have to slow down. You need to eat more slowly. You need to savor. You need to be present. You need to notice. And the yoga is a moving meditation, and the meditation I'm talking about is maybe, 10 minutes if that's all you've got during the day. You need to probably exercise less, believe it or not. And I already mentioned the interval training and cardio. Pay attention and be present. Take 2 to 5 minute time outs during the day. Just stop and pause. Notice your hand or just notice your breath to bring you back to the present. Maybe close your eyes, take a deep breath in and out. So even just a minute can reset us. To help with toxicity, to help your body pull them out, I recommend the MedCaps DPO. You can take 2 to 4 a day. Bentonite clay can be very useful and helpful in pulling toxins out. I recommend 1/2 teaspoon to 1 cup of water. Try to put more fiber in your diet. You can buy some fiber powder to pull the toxins out. You do get insoluble fiber from your fruits, vegetables, nuts, and things like that. But I'm talking about the soluble that really helps to pull the toxins out. Mix some gel, Sicilian husk, chia seeds, arabinogalactans, which are found in your shakes. If you've got any of the Diamond shakes, these will all help the toxins out. Have your hormones tested, which includes your thyroid, your T, which a lot of the doctors don't do. Have your sex hormones tested, and a lot of doctors after menopause will not test this. I think it's still important to have your DHEA tested. Estradiol, estrone is the bad cholesterol. It's more dangerous. You're going to have some. And then progesterone. So obviously if you're menopause, your estrogen is going to be low, your progesterone is going to be low, but I kind of want to see the ratio. Okay, I don't want to see the progesterone really up there and this really low, because that'll be a problem, or the other way around. But sometimes we just need a little progesterone cream if our estrogen is high. And also testosterone levels in both men and women. And by the way, I think I mentioned this last week. For men, if you are taking any type of testosterone replacement, you must have your estrogen also measured every time, because testosterone can be turned into estrogen, which is why some doctors don't like giving it to the men if they have prostate cancer, because it can be turned into estrogen. I always like to see progesterone in men too, especially if they have a partner that's taking progesterone. Sometimes it can rub off onto them. Okay, I always look at adrenals, the health of the adrenals, insulin levels. Again, most doctors will not test for insulin levels in a blood panel. Ask for it. If we have high insulin levels, and some people just kind of run that way, it's triggered by inflammation actually, and it affects a hormone called leptin, which actually curbs our hunger. And insulin levels is also part of making androgens, which is part of polycystic ovarian syndrome. So when we start eating the sugars and the flours, the insulin levels go up. That'll affect our leptin, which then it doesn't curb our hunger anymore. It lowers, the insulin has a lowering effect on the leptin, and this whole vicious circle starts. Okay, so it's having just a little understanding of that. I would like to point you again in the direction of myfitnesspal.com if you want to track. I think it's a really good idea for you to track your percentage of fat to protein to carb ratios, which would be 40 to 50 of the fat, 20 to 30 of the protein. Oops, yeah, 20 to 30 protein or 20 to 30 carbs. And as far as calories are concerned, I don't like to talk about calories that much, but I think we need to sometimes. So for women, and of course this depends on height and activity level, but I would recommend putting in that you want to keep your calories around 14 to 1600 calories, and that would be for a woman probably, I don't know, 5'3" to 5'5", and again, depends on the bone structure, all of that. I'm 5'9", and I require 19 to 200 to 2,000 calories a day. That's what my requirement is. So it will vary, but I would kind of start with that for anyone 5'5", 5'3" to 5'5", and then if you're taller than that, more active than that, then increase it accordingly. I do want to touch on inflammation just briefly. I've mentioned it many times during our webinars, but we did not address it head on. We didn't really take a webinar to talk about that. So we've addressed it indirectly, and I just want to do an honorable mention here. What you've been doing for the last 4 weeks with your living foods and trying to correct your digestion, kind of understanding, what your life purpose is. We haven't really talked about that. There's a couple of quizzes that you took just to kind of get a vision. And then lifestyle and reducing your toxic load and supporting your body with herbs and supplements. It's all influenced your inflammation and cooling it. So hopefully we're seeing less pain, less bloating, a little brighter eyes, all of that. And inflammation definitely affects brain health and hormonal balance. So hormone can affect it this way, but I kind of go more this way. So I just want to mention inflammation because I haven't mentioned it directly. But what you've been doing has had an effect on it. And what you continue to do will have an effect on it. Excuse me. I just want to mention about medications and inflammation and other things that you do and how it influences how well your body operates. So most people are not informed about the medications they take. I would say 90 to 90% of doctors do not fully inform the patients of the ramifications of taking medications, and partially because they don't know them themselves. What they know majority of the time is what their drug rep has told them, and that's about it. They don't have the time to usually do much investigation. And the drug rep doesn't tell them everything, and the drug rep doesn't know everything that it robs us at and or of. Your pharmacist would know more, and I wasn't aware of this, probably most of you are, is that when they have you sign that little X when you pick up a prescription, you are saying that you have talked to the pharmacist or chose not to talk to the pharmacist about any interactions. So instead of signing that dotted line, ask, are they going to tell you everything? Maybe not. There is, if you Google drug muggers, I think you will find yourself taken to a PDF that was put together by a pharmacist. And she lists many drugs and the nutrients that it actually depletes, and the additional diseases that you can have because of the depletion of the nutrients. So that's what often happens is we'll start on one or two drugs and in the 50s or so, and then by the time we're 65, people are on a minimum of 5 different types of prescription drugs, and it doesn't need to be that way. So I just want to make you aware of that. Some of the worst offenders, partially because so many are being prescribed and the amount is just huge, is Prilosec. And it wreaks havoc on the digestive system, on the stomach, and it makes you vitamin B deficient, B12 deficient. We're talking moods, we're talking memories, we're talking energy, all of that. And any acid-limiting medication is also a mother of your B vitamins and your minerals as well. Statins are even being prescribed prophylactically, which is a shame because there is so much side effects with statins. It just makes me cringe. But that's one of the worst offenders. Antidepressants and mood stabilizers, again, partially because of the amount that it is being prescribed. Bipolar, medications for bipolar and statins often cause diabetes. So you might go in with high cholesterol, you're handed a statin, and then you have diabetes in 2 years. Duh, I wonder why. And the connections aren't being made. So I want you to be aware so you don't fall into this trap. And then same thing with bipolar, it causes weight gain in a lot of people, and diabetes as well. Birth control pills are also a culprit for hormonal imbalances and irritation to the digestive system. So it often can change the bacteria and the flora, the good flora that we want, and contribute to growth of yeast. So birth control is prescribed a lot, cause a problem. And just know, I want to remind you that medications do not address the underlying cause of why there is a disease that's been diagnosed. And sometimes, especially with any type of psychiatric drug, a mood stabilizer, a person is told that they will have to be on this medication for the rest of their lives. And if they try to go off of it, usually or often, if they've been on it for a while, right, they will often not feel good at all and feel like, hey, I have to go back on this. And that is because there is a biochemical change that's happened in the brain and in the system in order to accommodate the powerful drug. So if you start going off of it, that accommodation, it needs to be done real slowly, and you got to make sure that you're supporting the person supported heavily with other supplements and food and lifestyle. So we buy into this that we are depressed. That means we become this thing. And that's not necessarily true. We're just having a depressed episode, or we're having a bipolar episode that's usually triggered by stress, lousy food, not sleeping, and usually some people are predisposed to that. Excuse me. Which we can find out the predisposition and support again with lifestyle and supplementation and food usually. Okay. So we are at the end of this, and I always hate to say goodbye. And I want to give you a few different options for going deeper and continuing for two reasons. One, I know that some people did not get into this as much as they had wanted to. The timing wasn't right, or, there could be a myriad of reasons. They weren't as ready as they thought they were. So I want to offer this for those people, and I also want to offer it to anyone who wants to go a little bit deeper into the detox. You're not quite done, and you're not quite ready to start putting some things back in. You just want to take a little bit farther. So one way of doing this is to incorporate medical food shakes for 2 weeks is what I would recommend. And it would take the place of 1 to 2 meals a day. And along with those meal replacements, so these shakes support the digestive system, and they help with the cleansing of the kidneys and the liver. So you do those as a meal replacement. And one thing that's nice is that they're very, very convenient to use. And with breakfast with breakfast, I put a handful of greens in it. I put some good fat in it in my shake. For lunch and dinner, you can also use good fast avocados and as many greens as you'd like. So you still want to make sure you're getting plenty of greens and vegetables, some fruits, along with the medical food shake. But it's also a way of calming and reducing inflammation by taking a lot of different foods out, especially if you suspect that you have a lot of food sensitivities. It's just a way for your body to rest and to restore. So that's one option. I will send you the link for the Detox 2 package, which I really like. And if you'd like to order that, I'm going to send it to you by tomorrow morning. And then what I also would like to offer is 2 additional weeks of phone support. So it would be in the form of a conference call. And it would be just a time and space. I'm imagining a half an hour, or however much time it takes, where people have a forum where they could bring some of their questions and some of their experiences and share it with each other. What I'd like to get is if you are interested, please email me at least 3 days and times, different days and times that you're available, and I'll try to piece it together to get the largest number of people who are interested in doing this together. And of course, I have to sync my schedule up with that too. So 2 additional weeks of phone support if there's enough interest for that. No charge for that at all. And then I would like to invite anyone who's done this to join the next cleanse, which I think I will be doing in the fall at no charge. I've typically led these cleanses once a year. I am thinking about doing it in the fall. If I don't do it in the fall, again, I'll be doing it at the beginning of next year, and you're more than welcome to come at that time. So hopefully these additional tools or things I'm offering here will help you to continue with your journey and continue making huge changes in your life on a lot of different levels. So I would like to continue to help you, and then I'm going to recommend some resources that I am hoping that you will pick up, at least one. So this book called Eat Fat, Get Thin by Dr. Mark Hyman is actually not coming out, I don't think, until March, but I just listened to his Fat Summit, which I don't even know how many speakers he had. I think he had 30 to 40. And there was just some wonderful nuggets. And so this is going to be, um, it's a paradigm shift. I mean, even Mark Hyman and Dr. David Perlmutter, who's another recommendation I'm going to give you, they said that, up to 10 years ago, the books that they were writing back then were talking about lowering fats and more complex carbohydrates. So the paradigm has shifted big time. And I think both of these authors here have a lot to offer. Mark Hyman has a lot of other different books called Ultimate Metabolism, but this will be the most up to date and I guess cutting edge, you could say. Dr. Perlmutter is coming out or has another book out called, oh gosh, just look him up. He's got a more recent book, but the Grain Brain book will tie in very well with what we've been doing as well as this book. Okay, so you just want to dive into a little bit more. I think it's helpful. If you want to know more about hormones, Sarah Gottfried is she's got two books now, The Hormone Cure, and then a more recent one, and I just found out she's writing another one. She's very good at the way that she presents things. All three of these doctors have had clinical practices, so that means that they're not just in the lab, they're just not researching, they actually have hands-on experience with their people and their patients. So both of them, or all three of them, are very, very gifted, very prolific, and have a way about putting things down in a cohesive and fairly easy way of reading. I think Dr. Mark Hyman's is probably the easiest to read of all three, but I think all three are very, very beneficial. I have both of these books here. And are we through to them? Okay. Now, I mentioned doing a little bit of meditation during the day and what that really means. There is a new book. I have not read it, and I didn't get a picture up here. It's called The Urban Monk by Pidram. I can't say this right. Sojay, I know I'm butchering his name. I'm so sorry. He is a physician or doctor, and he has been a monk too. And he, wrote this book addressing all of us, and I signed up for like little 10-minute videos that I've been coming across for the last week. And one of them was about taking time out during the day. And I'm going to send you this link, and hopefully you can click on it and get to this little 12-minute video, which I think is really helpful. It kind of shifts our mind about what and how meditation is and how quickly we can become present. And I think we need it. He had some really nice, wonderful little nuggets and tidbits during that video. So I will try to get that to you. So this is the end. I've imparted about all that I think I can. As far as what's up for you, you will continue to hopefully eat nutrient-dense foods, good fats, and keeping your grains out for the most part. And, look at your week 5. There's lists of what to do when you're not losing weight, what to do if your weight's noticing is creeping up. You've got a protein day on page 54, like what it would look like. So you have a lot of tools here that I hope will continue to take you through, and I would love to hear from you. It's hard for me to let you go, and I do want to thank you again and let you know what a privilege it's been for me to lead this. It's been an honor, and again, I hope to hear from you all. So if there's any questions or comments at this point in time, I would love for you to write them down in the chat box and give them to me, or if you prefer to email any of them to me, please do so. I did get a great message from Christine that she said her skin is just glowing. Girlfriends are talking about it. She has been doing a 30-day Bikram yoga challenge. So she's been detoxing that way. She's gone to clean and spa. She's just really happy with the way she's feeling. And by the way, she had a birthday thrown in there. And she did go off of her plan for about 3 days, but she did say what a difference she felt when she did, and she wanted to come right back on. So that's kind of a fun thing that I do with my clients. It's like, after I'll put them on an eating plan for 30 days, and it's basically what I have you guys do. And if they want to try putting something in, that's great because our bodies give us a lot of good information. And it's really by experience that I think we learn the best, not by me talking to you or talking at you or you reading something. It's when we actually experience it. Okay, I am done. And again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Stay in contact and good night.